Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world. I want to welcome you to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. We are not ashamed. Oh man, what a magical night this is. Dave Milner is back in our chat roll after an extended vacay. It is so good to have the master voice, a conservative talk out there. So good to have you back. Mary Brockman, my bouncer in chief, is in the hizzy. Yes. And it's so good to have her here tonight. Mary Brockman, we love you. We love you dearly. She is my bouncer. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed from our particular program. What a wonderful night. You're listening to New Day Black and Red live for the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. We're headquartered here. We normally have the professor with us this particular night. However, the professor has pneumonia. We are praying for his steady improvement, his better health, his strength, and we pray the Lord heal his body and make him whole according to his will and not our own. I truly miss the professor when he isn't here, and I pray for his steady and full recovery. Well, this is basically a warning to you all, as I will be flying as the peon-in-chief solo in piloting this particular evening. What a wonderful, wonderful day this is. There is a young couple out there that have blazed a trail for urban conservative talk. And their names are Randy and April Perham. Randy serves in the military. God bless his soul, and thank him for what he's doing for our nation, keeping us protected, well, and fruitfully at peace, while he sacrifices his well-being for us. But I had a chance to watch them on Blog Talk Radio. And as the founder and chairman and president of TECN, I just thought they need to be on our network. They being Randy and his wife, April. Very strong Christian-based, faith-based individuals. So I had the opportunity to drop a line to them, and during the period of the day that he was allowed, he gave me a phone call back, told me that unfortunately he's serving in the service, and so he's going to be making some transitions. Don't know if he would be able to do what I requested. He would go home and check with his wife. Well, I want you all to know something. It's an amazing thing. I don't care whether you are the most stout or the most miserly or the most wimpy man. When you have a good wife, you will not do any decision without heeding her counsel. And so he heeded her counsel. And I got this note from them today, this evening, in fact. Miss April Smith Perham and Randy Perham. Blessings and favor comes in such a way that when it happens, it's meant to be. When God moves mountains, one door closes, another opens. I want to take a moment and thank you for the offer and opportunity, Kenneth. April and I are truly grateful, and we'll try to make it happen. We'll be happy to join the family at TECN. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We will have a new show on TECN, and I'll be talking with them in due season about that. And I am very thankful that they've considered coming aboard. Randy and April Perham. If you get a chance to watch them on Blog Talk Radio, I sincerely hope that you do. Listen to them. I think their last show is scheduled for on Blog Talk Radio the next 2 Friday nights, I believe, something to that effect. I recommend highly that you take some time out of your busy lives and listen to Randy and April Perham. They are wonderful, wonderful people. And I look forward to making it happen with them as well. Thank God for your service to our country, both you and April, and thank God for what you do for all of us here at home. Ladies and gentlemen, we are growing by leaps and bounds. I can't tell you that enough. If I haven't told you already, Claudia, you're so beautiful. Thank you so much for being here tonight. But you know what we do when we do this. And forgive me if I seem a bit more relaxed tonight, a little more comfortable. Got my little sweater on here instead of the shirt and tie. I'll go back to that next week, but I wanted to relax tonight since I got to go solo. But the big flag is right over here for those who are watching via live stream. Right behind me, forgive me, right here. For those on Ustream, we got the flag right here. Right behind me on this side. Oop, that side. There's the Pledge of Allegiance, that big chart. Wow, that thing was heavy to hold. And we let our kids lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Won't you join us? The Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America. Put your right hand over your heart and let us pledge allegiance.
Take your parents. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight. This is the subject matter for tonight, and I do apologize for taking a break out of my schedule today and not putting this in the chat room. I wish I had earlier, but just to let you all know, New Day Black and Red is geared to giving individuals not only a Christian viewpoint. Hey, Melanie, love you. Glad to have you here tonight. Not only a Christian viewpoint, but also a constitutional viewpoint of things that are going on in our society today. And ladies and gentlemen, there are a great many things that are happening. What I believe today, while a lot of the focus, and I really apologize, not applaud, but I apologize for what Fox News business does in terms of pumping the market based on this vote in the U.S. House of Representatives for the Affordable Care Act repeal. It's not really a repeal, it's a repair. It's not even a replace, it's just a repair and retread. That's my commentary. You can take it for all that the grain of sand is worth. But literally, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to make it very clear to you, this is not a replace, or what is it? Repeal and replace? No, that's not it. This is a repair and retread. And I'll read to you what Thomas Massey says, a congressman from Louisiana, about that particular proposed bill that was approved today by the U.S. House and sent to the Senate. So it's not law. Trump didn't sign it. It's not law. But in the case of the free market system, the real question here is, how far has the establishment taken us away from capitalism? That should be, regarding the healthcare vote, how far away? And I know what they say. I've heard them on cap. Ooh, yes, I've heard them on cap. Ken, you're overreacting again. There you go again, Ken. You're overreacting. You're acting like one of those Freedom Caucus folks. That's the end of the world. Yeah, I know that's what you're saying. And I understand that. But here's a major problem with this particular scenario. It took them nearly 6 months to get to repair and retread. How long do you think it's going to take them, since they've already created the savings necessary for fiscal year 2018 budget? Or at least, yeah, 2018 budget. They've already created the savings so that they could do the infrastructure project and so that they can prepare to do the budget for 2018. Let's just be real. How much mode of movement is there for them to go ahead and repeal the whole thing and allow the free market enter in? It's not going to happen. I just wanted to, and what I apologize for Fox News, because Fox News is saying that the stock market is moving based on that. No, the stock market has already priced into itself the fact that this bill was going to be done before the June recess. They've already priced it in because they know that the next bill that they have to work on is the budget, uh, and they got to kick the can down the road with the CR until September. And then after that, they have to work on the infrastructure bill, which is a bipartisan, uh, shovel-ready, project-oriented goofball funding of the pleasures of congressmen and senators in Washington D.C. You got to hook a brother up, hook some governors up. You know what I'm saying? Grease the wheel, grease the wheel. So that's where we are at this particular point, and I'm so glad that you all tune into New Day Black and Red, because we like to give you, in truth, spiritual as well as constitutional context of all of this. So tonight, in our second half, we're going to focus on the healthcare vote and how far away from capitalism the establishment has taken us. Okay, if you want to stay for that's cool. And I know it's so much better when the underground professor's here, and you can listen to him. I'll try to do my best as a peon in chief in all my studies with him, to do my best. Well, yes, Melanie, it was Obama's budget that was incomplete. It's been incomplete for almost 8 years. It was a kicking the can down the road kind of thing. But we were told by the GOP that they wouldn't have to kick the can down the road anymore because they're in charge of the House and the Senate and the presidency. The only thing that they weren't in charge of was the Supreme Court. Ooh, wait a minute, Gorsuch. Oh, that changed all that. So, well, that's all I'm saying. Let's just say that when you have control of Karl Marx put it very well. When you have the control of a man's health and well-being, you have control of their soul. And our government doesn't want to give it up, no matter whether it's the friend or the foe. The friend being your Republican, the foe being your Democrat. They don't want to give up that kind of power and control over your life. And so we're going to talk about the second half. Now, in the first half, I do want to talk with you about the thing I think was the most important, but the most overlooked measure of the day, and that's religious liberty. We need one more. Yeah, I think I heard that Kennedy is going to retire at the end of this court season, somewhere in July or something like that. So I'm kind of counting that in. So, but you're right, Dave. We got to go to a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk with you about religious liberty and why today's focus on the First Amendment, Trump led. The question is, will Congress follow? You're listening tonight to New Day Black and Red, home of the Underground Professor and undergroundprofessor.us, who is normally the host, but continue to pray for his well-being and his healing. And as well, I am your peon in chief, Ken McClinton, and I'll be guiding you through a constitutional and spiritual viewpoint on today's issues. We'll be right back right after all of these messages.
It's a love story like no other. From God's heart to yours. And for 30 years, it's been at the heart of every book, Bible, CD, gift, and resource from ChristianBook.com. Over 500,000 products, always at the very best value. ChristianBook.com. Everything Christian. Because it's our story, too.
Meet Jason. He was really excited to start growing his business with social media until he realized how complex and time-consuming social media can be. It's difficult to manage multiple social networks and accounts. It's hard to monitor what's happening on social media, follow discussions, and engage with new followers. It's time-consuming to publish updates throughout the day, track and analyze how effective posts are, respond to fans and followers in a timely manner, and gain new customers. The list seems to go on and on. Jason quickly becomes discouraged. How could he ever do all of this and still run a business? He was ready to give up on social media until he found eClincher, the easiest way to manage social media. Jason was amazed how straightforward and simple it is to use eClincher. With eClincher, Jason is now able to leverage the power of social media without having to dedicate several hours a day. He can easily organize all his social media accounts in one place, efficiently plan and schedule his posts ahead of time, engage with his followers, understand the effectiveness of his efforts with powerful analytics, find new customers, and much more. In order to tell your business's story, simplify the process of managing your social media, and analyze results, sign up with eClincher today.
It's time for Unity in America. I'm David Longoria, trumpeter and singer. Join me Saturday, May 20th as we celebrate the 19th annual White House Day of Prayer for our nation. The event's founder, Reverend Dr. Terry Lee of Brooklyn, brings many churches and organizations together for this special day where we, the people, will join together for prayer and uplifting and leave our politics behind. There will be leaders from across the country as well as artists singing and praying together for our people, our nation, and our leaders. I will be joined by a 1,000 voices choir as we perform my new song of unity, We Are One. Come to the White House lawn in the Ellipse Park Saturday, May 20th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a special music hour at 3. Register now online for free at whitehouseprayer.org. That's whitehouseprayer.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to New Day Black and Red, live from the nation's capital tonight. We have in our remembrance our head honcho, the underground professor. Love that man. I really do. Y'all pray for him. Let him get over his pneumonia. Ladies and gentlemen, I hear too often this statement, and I want everyone to know that this is not a personal or professional attack or anything. I'm not going to even mention the name, okay? Because it's none of that stuff. I just want to give you some reasonings. I appeared on the Wednesday before the election on Sackheads Radio in preparation for the election. They allowed me to come on their show, Sackhead Sean, Sackhead Clint, at that time period. And I told them on that particular night that Donald Trump was not only going to win, but he was going to win by a landslide. And they were like, really, kid? You really think that? And my statement to him was, yes, all of the statistical signs show that Donald Trump was going to win. Even though you all were looking at polls that were coming out of CBS, MSN, CNN, Yo Mama Marxist, and all the other Democrat, liberal, progressive Marxist polling stations, even though you were looking at that, I said he was going to run the gambit. Whenever we did, and Dave Milner is my witness to that, I was on the show with them, they went down the 10 states that were necessary for him to just have a chance at winning, just have a chance. And they were like, there is no way that he is going to, God bless you, have a very good night, Mel. There's no way he's going to be able to win. I went down each of the 10 states and I said, yes, he's going to win each of the 10 states. There is always this affluence from outside that says that if something you do today is going to literally change the mindset of Americans and force them not to vote for you. The next day, not only did he win Florida and Pennsylvania, but he won Wisconsin. He went 10 for 10. He won. That was all against what everyone else in the polling community, in the establishment community, because even the establishment was thinking that we were about to vote in Hillary Rodham Clinton for the presidency of the United States of America. And despite what Hillary says, you didn't lose it because of Russia, and you didn't lose it because of Comey. You lost it because of Hillary. All right, let's just be real. Losers are losers. That's what they do. It is what you do. Okay, and nothing changes that. Dave says, best I could do was admit the possibility and say Trump had a chance. Thank you, Dave. But Dave knew me. He knew I was going way out there. And so let me just say to you all, there are those who are quibbling here and saying that you have to accept less than in order to get more. Now, I don't know how much more power you need. Maybe 60 votes in the Senate. Maybe that we need to win, 9 more seats in the U.S. Senate to have a 60 vote threshold. And that's entirely up to the American people to make the most conservative person you got running for Senate get into the U.S. Senate rather than an establishment person. But the establishment people always say to us, we have to accept far less. That compromise is true partisanship. Although we never heard that from the Democrats when they were. Did you notice that? In the first 2 years of Obama, we didn't hear any of that about no compromise. It says the righteous take it by force. That's what the Democrats believe. We take by force, whatever it is. We're going to do this thing. And we're going to do this thing upright. And forgive me, I'm in Washington, D.C., so there are always police going by. I'm waiting for the helicopter now. And Mary's right. They only polled Dems. They had already been, but the reason, and now Hillary was telling us that the Russians were impacting the race. But wait a minute. Was not the media polling 90 Democrats and 10 Republicans and telling you that that's how the election is going to come out? Is that not influencing the mindset of the people who voted? Yes, it is. But guess what? People voted anyway. This is why I love the American people, because the American people are smarter than the pollers. The American people are smarter than commentators. The American people are smarter than politicians. The American people are smarter than the Supreme Court. And the American people are smarter than the President of the United States. Why? Because we put each and every one of them in those posts. And what they believe, what we believe, is that when we voted you in after hearing you for 8 years, whine and complain that if you had the power, oh Lord Jesus, that's like running up on somebody. If I had a nickel for every time, oh Lord, if I could just get off this cane, I would walk all the way down them stairs. But that means that you have to give up your disability. Oh, I can't. Oh no, I'm not going to get healed. I'm not getting in the healing line. Listen, we hear it all the time about how if we do something, then the people are going to react differently. How would they react differently when they sent you to do one job, one major job? Well, actually, two. Can I tell you what the election? I know what other people will tell you what the election about was last year. Okay, I know they will. And I'm quite certain that by now you're thinking, man, I wish the underground professor was here. I learned so much more. But here are the two things that election was about last year. Number one, it was about immigration and immigration reform. Number one. What's the big thing that the Trump administration is telling you and the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, is telling you? That illegal immigration is now down 70%. Why? Because Donald Trump said it on the campaign trail. You better get here now, because when I become president, you won't be able to get here at all. Number one was immigration. You know what the number two thing was? The number two thing was repeal Obamacare. Now, all those left-leaning liberals who are on the establishment side, that go to the GOP drink spot down on First Street in Southwest Washington, D.C., in front of the U.S. Capitol, said that Trump ran on repeal and replace. That is not what the American people voted him in for. He knows that. You know that. And you know what? Fox Business News knows that too. They know that you, the American people, did not vote in Barack Obama 3. Because if you had, then you would have gone the full Mountie when it comes to health care. I guess we're going to start out with health care now and move to religious liberty. That's not what happened. What happened here was that the American people said, listen, we don't want to make a choice between paying the mortgage and getting health insurance. We don't want to be given an insurance card and have to wait in line for a whole year to see a doctor. We do not want the budgets in states to balloon as they are doing right now. This is really what the repair and retread thing is about. It's about funding the states that went all willy-nilly over the offer. And that some Republican governors, like in Ohio, went get willy-nilly in busting their budgets so that they get federal money. Now the federal money pool is dried up. And the insurance companies, which are private, said, hey, no money, no dancing. No money? No. You can't come in. No money, no. So they're pulling out. And we're watching a devastating death take place where people have insurance cards and can't see a doctor because there's not enough doctors in the community. The same people who worked on government demand-oriented politics didn't understand the free market supply system. Well, in Ohio, it was more like Milli Vanilli. No, I understand. I truly understand. So what I'm saying to you is that the American people are not looking for a nuance by a politician. Donald Trump referred to himself today as a short-lived politician. The American people didn't vote in a politician. I want you to understand this. They voted in someone who was going to do what was righteous. What was righteous was not lying to the American people and saying that if you want your doctor, you can keep your doctor. What was not righteous was telling the American people that if you get this health insurance policy, it will depreciate and cost 20% every year. That you'll be able to see whatever doctor in whatever hospital you wanted to. The American people, now there are two people that suffered and one group that improved when it came to healthcare over the past few years. The one group that got everything regarding healthcare were immigrants who came here illegally. Because by law, you can't refuse them care. It's already in the law. Not the Obama AHCA bill, but long ago, it was made law in America that you could not refuse care if someone comes into your hospital. So it was already there. Which is why emergency room care figures almost replace everything in a Medicaid budget. Because the most poor, the most sickly, they don't go to a doctor, they go merely to emergency room. And that's why the HMO movement came into place, and they were trying to make Medicaid more HMO friendly so that you were assigned a doctor, so to lower the cost for the states. So for illegal immigrants, healthcare improved dramatically. For veterans, And the American people, not so much. Veterans dying because of the corrupt nature of the Veterans Administration. Our people, like in Iowa, where there's only one healthcare insurance company there, and they've already said they're pulling out in September. Well, officially at the end of the year, but they're pulling out in September, which basically means there are some states that don't even have, who have signed up for Obamacare, don't have accessibility to it, or at least those people don't. There were individuals who had cancer coverage, and those individuals no longer have coverage. They had it before Obamacare, they don't have it now. And there's a question. Mary says, so why is we pay so much for the emergency room? Well, here's the costing of an emergency room trip versus a ordinary healthcare trip. If you go to the doctor, a physician, he's already priced into it about $100 to $200 for your visit. That means the visitation, management fees, paperwork fees, any type of lab testings that you're going to get, and counsel, all within a 35-minute span of time. That's what they're looking at. And actually, that 35 minutes breaks down to about 15 minutes. Really, when they say that you're going to have an hour with your doctor, that's really not true. You're going to have about 15 minutes with your doctor. So that's why when you go see your doctor, don't be trying to make all jokes and be nice and everything. Let's get this. Let's get it done, people. Come on. Tell me what's wrong with me so that we can get this going. When you go to the emergency room, you are going to see specialists because they are considered specialists. Their pricing is much higher. There are other extensive costs for going to the emergency room to receive specialized treatment. And that's why it may cost $200 to go see your doctor, but it may cost $600 or $700 to go to the emergency room. The state sees a big difference in that $400 span. So who's paying the $400 difference? When you say state, it's not the state, it's you. You're picking up the difference. And if it's someone on Medicaid, you're really picking up not only that, but an additional 75% of the $200, another $150. So you're looking at about $750 that you're paying for that particular emergency room visit. Dave says docs will hit a time clock the moment they walk in the room. That's true. That's true, because they cannot survive without seeing at least 4 to 6 people in an hour. They can't, and that's why you'll see a number of them join up in forces together. When we come back from our break, I want to get into the concept of why the repair and retread that's being told to you is repeal and replace. It's not. I want to give you what Thomas Massey says, and then from there, we're going to take a look at healthcare, and then we're going to take a look at religious liberty in the second hour of our program. You're listening to New Day Black and Red live from the nation's capital, and we thank you so much for spending your time with us tonight.
We're not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is a power of liberation. First to the Republican, and then the socialist. TECS, the Exceptional Conservative Show. We got our own thing, baby. Come to theexceptionalconservativeshow.com and join me for the best in urban conservative talk. The greatest advertisers in all of the world are on the Exceptional Conservative Show and the Exceptional Conservative Network. Buy their products and share their good news. Go to theexceptionalconservativeshow.com right now. We'll be back after these messages. I'm Ken McClinton, chairman of the Exceptional Conservative Network. Never has the cry for economic liberty been more resounding in urban America than on Election Day 2016. It's the economy. All real change begins with the American entrepreneur. Socialism did not work. Progressivism stole the wealth of individuals and families. You voted for something different. Real change. But what does real change look and sound like? It looks like Las Vegas, and it sounds like Freedom Fest 10. Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds, is the popular liberty-minded conference at the beautiful Paris Resort in Las Vegas from July 19th to the 22nd. Hear the voices of the urban freedom movement. Deneen Borelli, Larry Elder, Gina Lofton, Helen Riley, Juan Pablo Arande, and Zayad Abdenour. Share ideas with powerful liberty movement figures like Stevie Forbes, Jim Rogers, Anthony Scaramucci, Jennifer Grossman, Naomi Brockwell, Denise D'Souza, John Stossel, Lisa Kennedy, Peter Schiff, and our keynote speaker this year, William Shatner. Your money, your liberty, your freedom, your city. Come for the real and return with the change. Register now at Freedom Fest for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all caps code TECN. We'll see you there. Freedom Fest 10.
Hello, this is Leslie Ann Stoffel with The Real Clear Israel. Join me every Sunday morning at 10:05 Eastern Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network, where we'll be discussing Israel with guests from Israel and around the world.
That's The Real Clear Israel, 10:05 Sunday on the Exceptional Conservative Network.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital, men of faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red.
Hi, my name is Willie Lawson of The Willie Lawson Show here on the Exceptional Conservative Network. We have a brand new show on at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. We are bound to make you think. We are bound to make you see things differently. We are bound to push you into action for not only your community, but your country. That's The Willie Lawson Show on the Exceptional Conservative Network, 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. See you there.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
It's a love story like no other. From God's heart to yours. And for 30 years, it's been at the heart of every book, Bible, CD, gift, and resource from ChristianBook.com. Over 500,000 products, always at the very best value. ChristianBook.com. Everything Christian. Because it's our story, too.
I want to thank the great people at Red Nation Rising. Love you guys. We're on the Liberty Channel at 2 a.m. Hope that you tune in and listen to us. Also, want to thank the great people at SHR Media, Sakia Sean, Sakia Clint, the BZ. Yeah, he's going to be on a little bit later on tonight. He's going to be on at 11 p.m. Eastern time, right after our program, Sir Mark the Bloviating Zeppelin on SHR Media. Guess what, you all? You now can go to the home page or the contact page on the exceptionalconservativeshow.com. Scroll all the way down to the bottom and you will see the schedule for individuals coming on our networks. The Exceptional Conservative Show, the Exceptional Conservative Network, and SHR Media. You'll be able to, and tell me if you can go there now, if you can take a look at it, let me know what you think. You'll see the time periods, the days, and when those individuals actually come on. So we're trying to be as efficient as we possibly can to make certain that we are the best in conservative talk wherever you go. And we're thankful for you. We really are. We're talking tonight about healthcare. We really are. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to, because a lot of people think I wing it. I really don't. I do a lot of research for my particular program. There is a congressman named Thomas Massey who was not pleased with today's vote. And quite frankly, don't tell me that this was a big win when you only won by 5 votes, 217 to 212. And I know a lot of people have been reporting it as 217 to 214 or 13, something like that. But the truth of the matter is 3 people did not vote. They chose not to put their name on one side or the other. So it was really 217 to 213. That's how close that bill was in terms of consideration today. Thomas Massey wrote after the bill passed because he was quite angry. And I put that in the chat roll for people to follow, just so you know, back, if I didn't, let me put that in there. Yeah, I did. I put that in there for you all, just in case. You all just questioned whether I have validity. Congressman Thomas Massey said, as recently as a year ago, Republicans argued that mandates were unconstitutional, bailouts were immoral, and subsidies would bankrupt our country. How many of y'all can say true that? I can. I heard them. They came on my show and said all those things. Today, however, the House voted for a health care bill that makes these objectionable measures permanent. Okay, I want to put that in there for you all to understand why I don't believe that there is any more political capital to go back and finish off the beast. I don't. Maybe it won't be there until you all vote in conservatives to take the place of the liberal establishment that has taken center stage in the GOP. That Tuesday group that's battling against the Freedom Caucus, until you add more people that can go into the Freedom Caucus, Tuesday group wins. And they won today. Congressman Thomas Massey went on to say the former Democrat Speaker of the House was rightfully derided for employing members to vote for a health care bill to find out what was in it. Yet today we voted on a health care bill for which the text was available only a few hours before the vote. Can I put that out for you so that you understand where I'm coming from on this? I'm not trying to make this stuff up. This is an actual congressman who's saying that. And you're right, Mary, it probably will lose in the Senate. In fact, the Congressional Budget Office had no time to even provide Congress with a preliminary estimate of the full cost of this bill. By repealing a small number of Obamacare mandates while leaving others in place, this bill runs the risk of destroying what remains of the individual health insurance market. Remember now, I preface this, and I agree with Thomas Massey. I was telling you that we were already watching the death blow to Obamacare. It's kind of like when you see an accident, you can walk up on an accident as it's happening and you recognize it's an accident and there's nothing you can do. All you can do is look and watch it happen. Well, guess what? This is Obamacare. I digress. Let me go back to what Thomas Massey was saying. The option in this bill that allows states to apply for waivers for some Obamacare mandates is well intentioned. That's nice. That's real nice. However, it falls far short of our promise to repeal Obamacare. There also remains the risk that state legislatures, like our federal legislature, are unable to withstand the political pressure from lobbyists who defend Obamacare and the pressure from those who receive Obamacare's welfare handouts. Do you not know what happened when these gentlemen went back? Those were not conservatives sitting in those rooms yelling and screaming at those politicians. The persons who were in those rooms were paid Soros people who were making it look like everybody wants Obamacare. We voted for repeal, and this is what we got, folks. I digress. This bill should have included measures that allow Americans to take charge of their own health care and get the government out of the way. These measures include allowing the deduction of health insurance costs from income taxes. Amen. 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 100% is what I believe. Giving everyone the ability to purchase health insurance across state lines. Could have been done. Could have been. Wasn't in the bill. Wasn't. And allowing individuals to band together through any organization to purchase insurance. In weighing my vote, I heeded the wise advice that one should not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. If this bill becomes law, it could result in worse outcomes, fewer options, and higher prices for Kentuckians who seek health care. In summary, I voted against this bill, not because it's imperfect, but because it's not good. It's not good. Not. That's what Thomas Massey said, the Kentuckian, who came under deridement by those, and along with the Freedom Caucus, for saying that all this gibbity-gook that the establishment wing wants to tell you that, oh, this is the first shot and we'll be back and Thomas Massey was telling you the absolute truth. They're not coming back. This is the only reason they did it, was to create enough financial space on the ledger so they could do the infrastructure bill and the budget. That's it. That's the only reason. They're not coming back around for this. They don't want to have to deal with the Freedom Caucus. They don't want to have to deal with a Thomas Massey who says, you know what, this sucks. I'm one of the 212 who voted against it. This sucks. This is not why they sent us to Washington. They did not send us to Washington to smooth the edges for the lobbyists. That's not why. They sent us here, as I told you in the very beginning of this show. There were two reasons for the last election: immigration and repeal. And I keep hearing people talk about, well, if this stuff gets passed or whatever, well, at least it's a starting block. We can always come back to it. No, you're not going to come back because you don't have the political will, and you no longer have the capital. It's all been spent to make certain that this agenda goes through as planned. If you listen to Mnuchin in his interview with Maria Bartiromo, there is a schedule to all of this, and I've been telling you what that schedule was from the very beginning. I know I'm not as competent as everyone else that you listen to, but I often find myself more right. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a schedule. That train's going to stay on that schedule. And they are coming for the Freedom Caucus in the next election, because they have been now endowed with the belief that you really didn't want to repeal. What you wanted was a repair and retread. And then there will be commentators that will come behind me and say, that's what we got. We got repealed and replaced. We didn't get repealed and replaced. You got repair and retread. And they won't tell you what Congressman Thomas Massey said. They will tell you what Paul Ryan said. And I understand, Paul Ryan, he's a cool dude. Very sexy. Very sexy. Yes, he is. But guess what? You got exactly what the the establishment people wanted you to have. I want to play this clip for you real quick.
All the promises of Obamacare have been broken. And tomorrow, we begin the end of Obamacare once and for all.
Vice President Mike Pence, he's been on the Hill 3 days in a row this week. Republicans believe this could be it. They think their current health care bill has the support to pass and do away with much of Obamacare. House Republicans at this hour meeting behind closed doors ahead of a vote planned later today on health care. There are critics, and many of them. Here to answer those critics, Health and Human Services Secretary Dr. Tom Price is with me now. And, sir, good morning to you, and thank you for your time on what could be a significant day. This is the reason why you're in the cabinet. You know, President Trump picked you exactly for this reason. So tell us, the bill that is now being talked about, how will that make health care in America better?
Well, the fact of the matter is that where we find ourselves right now is a system that's not working for so many folks. They may have a health insurance card, but they don't have care. We've got yesterday the announcement that two major insurance companies were either announcing they're pulling out or planning to pull out of Iowa and Virginia. So the system right now isn't working. What the system that we believe ought to be put in place, and we believe the bill will move us in that direction, is a system that's more affordable for folks, allows for access to kind of coverage that they want, not that the government forces them to buy, allows patients and families and doctors to be in charge, and provides significantly increased choices for patients, because that's how you get not just costs down, but you get the system responsive to real folks.
Okay, now, a couple specific questions. 3 times you've tried this now in a month and a half. Do you believe they have the votes today? 216.
It feels like it. I spent 12 years up there on the Hill with my colleagues working on issues oftentimes as difficult as this, and it feels like it. There aren't any assurances, obviously, but it feels like it. But the fact of the matter is that regardless of what happens, and I think it's going to happen today, but regardless of what happens, the system again is failing the American people. You've got a system where we've got a third of the counties in this nation that only have one insurance issuer. You have 5 states where there's only one. You've got counties that are now realizing that they aren't going to have any insurance company providing coverage for them in the individual market next year. That's a system that's failing the American people. So here at the Department of Health and Human Services, we're working on the kinds of things to stabilize that market, to make certain that we can allow for choices for individuals, and listen to patients, listen to the folks out there in the real world, because right now the system is failing them.
All right, critics are teeing off already. Democrats are on the floor of the House, and they are not happy. Nancy Pelosi put out this statement, quote, House Republicans are going to tattoo this moral monstrosity to their foreheads, and the American people will hold them accountable. Is that what this is?
Oh, I think the American people are really sick and tired of the political hyperbole that they hear coming out of Washington. Remember, these are the same folks that said that if you wanted to keep your doctor, you could keep your doctor. If you wanted to keep your insurance plan, you could keep your insurance plan. If you wanted to vote for something that was going to bring down the cost of health coverage, that was it back then 7, 8 years ago. Fact of the matter is, none of those things are true. What we want to do is have a seamless system, not pull the rug out from anybody, make certain that individuals are able to gain the kind of coverage that they want for themselves and for their family, that's of the highest quality care that we can absolutely provide.
Well, and that's what the shooting was for. The goal, highest quality care. The highest quality care. The problem is that the American people sent Congress here not for the highest quality care, but for individual and family freedom. Sovereignty. Get out of the way. This bill did not get out of the way. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, in the second half of our program, I guess we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about this healthcare bill, its provisions, things that are in it, so that you know ahead before you go to the water cooler tomorrow and you sit around people who are saying, oh, make America great again. No, it's actually making America the same again. A bill that Congressmen voted for and passed today that they did not read, they don't know what's in it, and they pass it on to the Senate. Doesn't sound any different from what we had before. We'll be right back. It's the second half of New Day Black and Red.
Good morning.
I'm Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright. Okay, folks, that's not how it goes. I think I'm Shannon and you're Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. We are The Right Way with Shannon and Mike.
Join us from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
Live on SHR Media.
And on TECN.
Where we'll be talking about all kinds of things.
From sports and politics.
To food and entertainment.
To money.
Family.
And anything else in between.
Community, holidays, all kinds of things.
It'll be great. Join us from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, coming soon to ossicles near you. Excelsior.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital, men of faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red. From the war
Home
front
value is up
to
and
the streets
interest
of our
rates near
nation's
all-time
capital.
lows. You probably know that now is a great time to refinance, like the Johnsons, who saved $436 a month.
$436 a month?
It's simple. Just go to lendingtree.com, compare loan offers for free, and see how much you could save in just 5 minutes.
I thought you said the bank gave you the best rate.
Yeah.
Lending Tree. When banks compete, you win.
I have to do everything myself.
Someone is sleeping on the couch tonight.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of a Fuse restaurant, and today I'm gonna walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. We're making a pizza. We use fresh Italian sausage, and then we cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and ingredient. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and the Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fish and grits on the menu. Once the fish is ready, then our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused heat burgers. We kick the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burger, we add the sauce and let it cook on into the meat just a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger to spice it up a bit. Order up!
6339 Allentown Road is where you need to be this weekend. 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland. Ladies and gentlemen, it is good food, good eating, including the exceptional one, huge burger. You got 2 double patties and 8 slices of bacon and any cheese you want on nice bread. I'm hungry already. Ladies and gentlemen, I always have to do this as a disclaimer because at this hour we're going to play, of course, that wonderful commercial by Melanie Collette. And I have to advise all gentlemen, please, cheddar for me. Oh, there you go, cheddar. I like provolone. All right. Um, Gentlemen, please get your cigarettes and your lighters and head towards the porch as we prepare for Melanie Collette's commercial.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information,
Money Talk with Melanie is a lively discussion of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Join your business diva, Melanie Collette, as I speak with respected entrepreneurs, CEOs, authors, and politicians as we explore today's fiscal environment. Money Talk with Melanie airs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:05 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network. Remember, this is important because it's your money.
Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you back to New Day Black and Red, live from the nation's capital. So glad to have you here. We give you a constitutional as well as a spiritual viewpoint on the matters of the day. We left off and we were listening to Tom Price explain to Fox News correspondent exactly why the bill mattered so much and why it needed to pass. But I want you to understand something. We're not looking at the free market here with this at all. Not at all. Not even close to it with the healthcare provisos. What we're looking at is the concept that healthcare is based on quality of insurance card, not on your ability to choose what's best for you and your family. Now, there are some things that have been done in this particular bill. The bill ends tax penalties under the original Affordable Care Act. And let me just go as far as to say this. Remember when we had our lovely, well, just left my mind just that quickly. She left my mind that quickly. I can't think of her name right now. It will toy with me until the next commercial break. But our tax diva, who was on, and she explained, don't get excited yet because Donald Trump has signed an executive order saying that there would be no penalties applied. He really can't do that constitutionally. That's the right and responsibility of Congress to pass legislation. Eva, thank you. Yes, Eva Rosenberg. Thank you, Mary. That's why Mary is my bouncer in chief. Eva Rosenberg. And she was telling us, don't get excited yet because it doesn't count until Congress passes law and then it's signed into law. So even though the House passes, it hasn't meted out everything just yet. Apparently, for individuals who don't buy insurance coverage and larger employers who don't offer coverage, instead, insurers would apply a 30% surcharge to customers who've let coverage lapse for more than 63 days in the past year. See, that's not really a change. I mean, you're going to be penalized. One was we're going to tax you. The other way is we're going to fee you. Now, I know that this might be a lineup in terms of what SCOTUS said, that Obamacare was not a fee, but a tax. And they're trying to work around it so they can repeal it or whatever. But the bottom line is there's a 30% surcharge to you. If you lose your job, you lose coverage, 63 days goes by and you can't get it. Ooh. That's not good. It's not good at all. Not. It ends tax increases on higher earning people and a range of industry groups, including insurers, drug makers, and medical device manufacturers. It cuts the Medicaid program for low-income people and lets states impose work requirements on Medicaid recipients. There you go. If you can work, you can get your own insurance. So, you know what's coming in urban America. People marching in the streets. It's amazing how you can march in the street, but you can't work. Just saying. Changes Medicaid from an open-ended program that covers beneficiaries' costs to one that gives states fixed amounts of money annually. You can only spend this much and no more. Well, at least we're not going to give you any more. Overhauls the insurance subsidy system from one based largely on incomes and premium costs to a system of tax credits. The credits would rise with customers' ages and, like the subsidies, could be used toward premium costs. It also lets states get federal waivers, and this is problematic here because come another president, it could be tossed away. It lets states get federal waivers, allowing insurers to charge older customers higher premiums than younger ones by as much as they like. Obama's law limits the difference to a 3-to-1 ratio. States can also get waivers exempting insurers from providing consumers with required coverage of specified health services, and from Obama's prohibition against insurers charging higher premiums to people with pre-existing health problems. Forgive me. But only if the person has had a gap in insurance coverage. Now, here's the problem here. Who is more likely to vote? The 60-year-old woman who just found out that she's going to be charged out the yang for health insurance, or the 18-year-old kid who found out that he could sleep on his mama's couch and nobody will say a word, he'll still get his health insurance? Which one of them is more likely to vote? If you say it is the 60-year-old woman, you are right. Which is why this bill is going to be problematic come election season 2018. The elderly are going to say, hey, wait a minute. You're charging me, hey, Dan, what's up, bro? You're charging me out the yang. All right? And you expect, who did that? Who did that to us? It was the Republicans. You see how that's going to work? Just letting you know. Now, it also blocks federal payments to Planned Parenthood. But I want you to understand that while that will be the talking point to conservatives, they'll give you this all day tomorrow. They're going to be telling you this. It's only good for 1 year. Only good for 1 year. Now, also, they're going to have high-risk pools. Insurance companies cannot deny you coverage based on pre-existing conditions. Yeah. But the states are going to be given about $8 billion extra to do these high-risk pools. It is expected to cost about $38 billion to do the pools, not 8. So already we're going to have an issue and a problem with that. And then it retains requirement that family policies cover grown children to age 26, which makes them artificially expensive to begin with. So where in this is repealed? Please, someone explain to me, show me where in this is repealed. I don't have any people coming in and chiming in and saying, Ken, you're absolutely wrong. That is repealed. It's not. Thomas Massey is right. It's not a repeal. It really is a repair and retread. They saved Obamacare. Now, some of you might be asking, well, Ken, since you're so smart, what would the free market work with? Well, let me tell you this. This is what Grace Marie Turner, and she's been on our show before. She's with the Galen Institute. And she doesn't come on anymore, but that's okay. Grace Marie says that this is a win-win-win-win-win. She says it is a win for the uninsured because it offers millions more Americans the chance to buy health insurance with the tax savings they will receive from the new standard deduction and likely new state subsidies. But again, this bill, if it's signed into law this year, meaning come the new federal October 1 period, it doesn't impact you tax-wise until 2019. That's when you get your deduction. Because there's nothing in the proviso that says that this is backdated. So this doesn't impact you until after the election. Do you understand why this is becoming problematic? I know you would prefer to listen to some other guy tell you that this was a win, and I understand. But I want you to get the full schematic of what this is going to do. It is a win for states because they will have more flexibility with the new affordable choices, state initiatives to direct federal resources to meet the needs of citizens to get affordable health insurance. Well, that's true. That's very true. Here's another win. It is a win for employees because they now have the opportunity to buy health insurance that they can own and take with them from job to job. But let me ask you, what difference does it make? What difference does it make if you get health insurance and you lose your job to take with you and you can't pay for it for a couple of months? You get another job and you pick it up again and you're charged 30%. Where's the win in that? So instead of it being a $3,000 annual policy, it's now a $3,900 annual policy, $900 taken out of your baby's mouth because you couldn't provide. Do you understand the complexity here? All right. And some of you all are saying, "Well, what's $900?" You know what I'm saying? If you've ever lost a paycheck, you know what $900 is. She goes on to say the health sector wins because this eliminates one of the major hidden forces driving up the healthcare costs. It gives the market new incentives to make insurance more affordable. And then taxpayers win because 80% of them will receive a tax cut when they take the new $15,000 family deduction. Do you understand how this is going to be very problematic? Okay. Crash and burn is still crash and burn no matter how hard you try. And listen, I understand what they're saying. I'm not trying to be one of those doom and gloom guys. I'm not trying to be, but I'm just telling you there are some perplexities here that need to be addressed. And I don't think they're going to be. You know the key problem with all of this, and I have to go to a quick break here, is that the free market's missing. When we come back, I want to talk with you about what Dr. Gerard Lamar wrote once about the free market and why that is missing right now. I'll show you point by point why it's missing from this bill and why it's not really repealed and replaced. It's more along the lines of, we did something, didn't we? We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe from the Reamer, Common Sense. You can catch me every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com. That's every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, shrmedia.com.
Begin your mornings the right way with some right thinking from me, Perry Drake, your friendly neighborhood drive-by pundit. I want you to join me every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern and 9 a.m. Central Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network. From politics to pop culture to relationships to whatever else is on your mind, we have a great deal to talk about. Join in and let's get the talking started. Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, conservative by choice. It's Reverend Ralph Chittum's The Right Guy on the Exceptional Conservative Network from 4:05 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. The Right Guy on TECN.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
Hi, my name is Willie Lawson of The Willie Lawson Show here on the Exceptional Conservative Network. We have a brand new show on at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. We are bound to make you think. We are bound to make you see things differently. We are bound to push you into action for not only your community, but your country. That's The Willie Lawson Show on the Exceptional Conservative Network, 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. See you there.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. New Day Black and Red, live from Washington, D.C. We missed the Underground Professor. I love the Underground Professor. And I hope that he's feeling better and doing better. And we look forward to him coming back next week, hopefully in strength of the Lord. There's nothing like having the professor. Nothing at all. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. There is also concerns tonight about a bill that was not read that was passed today. I know. If this was Nancy Pelosi, y'all be calling into the show and all kinds of stuff. You'd be throwing your shoes at the TV set. You'd be screaming up and down. The Marxists are trying to take away our peace and our freedom. Oh boy, it's unconscionable. It's just unconscionable. It's unconstitutional. I don't know why we're doing it. Dr. Gerard Lemieux. And I got to find a way to get. I really miss when I was doing Conservative Commandos radio show with Rick. We had some great guests on. Dr. Gerard Lemieux was one of those great guests who would come in often and talk with us almost on a weekly basis about issues before the election. Rick Trader, I love you, Rick. And he talked about what free market is and what the distinct characteristics of free market are. The number one thing that he responded to is that a free, cooperative, and peaceful process makes up a free market. I shouldn't have to go through 17 different layers of government to get what I need for my family. Bureaucrats should not be deciding for me that I, a man, need to have an obstetrician gynecologist. I mean, I haven't delivered a baby in my life. I may be working on it though. You know what I'm saying, girlfriend? But I don't know why I need one. Free, cooperative, and peaceful process. That only comes when there are protections on needed things, and as well that the inducement be one that someone seeks their own financial liability in this regard. Also, individuals are free to choose their own work. When I want you all to know, before the 1970s, really the 60s, in America, most people bought their own insurances themselves, and they handled their own paperwork themselves between them and the insurance company. And then when the 70s and 80s came around, especially when we had the change in the structure of the Great War on Poverty in America, and we introduced Medicare and Medicaid, and we began to give away the store, what we told companies and providers is, we will pay top dollar to make certain our people are healthy. And I want you to know that whether it's college costs or health insurance costs, if there is no border, as we apply immigration, if there is no border, I'm going for the moon on my prices. That pill is no longer a $5 pill. That pill is now $50. Because I know you're not going to pay $50 for it. You're not going to pay $50. But I know your government will pay me at least 80% of that after a certain amount of deductible. So if I give you 2 pills at $50 a piece, that's $100. I know that there is a $50 deductible that I just write off. You're going to pay it to me. That's $50 plus whatever the balance is. $50. I'm going to get 90% from the Fed. I'm going to get $95 for a $10 pill, or at least 2 pills of $10. That's not how it should work. When government gets in, you're guaranteeing corruption. In the free market, individuals are free to be investors. They're free to be entrepreneurs. Individuals are free to create capital formation. Individuals are free to care and earn profits. There's nothing wrong with insurance companies earning profits. The problem is your government, which is allowing profiteering. In free markets, individuals are free to buy, earn, use, and sell private property without excessive government regulations. Your health insurance is private property, or it used to be. In a free market, individuals are free to set prices, including wages and salaries, the prices paid for labor services. Your doctor, if he's all that in a bag of chips, deserves to be paid $300 for the health visit. And if your doctor is Joe Schmo, graduated next to last in his class, and would be a better veterinarian than he would be a physician, does he deserve $300 for caring for you? I should say not. Maybe not. If he's making mistakes, maybe not. You need to be able to compete. So there should be an open competition. That's not in here. And then a free market is free, cooperative, and peaceful, because it does not have centralized planning, control, coercion, and compulsion. If I charge you 30% in your worst of days, is that not compulsion? Yes, it is. You're not looking at free market here. I don't care what people say about me, that I'm an anarchist and that I don't understand politics and that I am not a peacemaker and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm not. I'm a realist. And I'm going to tell you right now, whether you are John Goodman or Thomas Massey, this is not free market healthcare. What it is a repair and retread of Obamacare. Saving Obamacare does not save America, nor does it make America great. And that's exactly what we did today. Now, the real champions here are the treasurers in state legislatures and executive offices, simply because more federal dollars will be going out the door. The losers in this today are the same people who voted in Donald Trump and the rest of these guys for 2 reasons: immigration and repeal and replace. Actually, just repeal, not replace. Segue. You're listening to New Day Black and Red. We're missing the professor tonight. Focused earlier on healthcare. Let us now move into what the real big issue of today was, and that was religious liberty. Great job today, gang. Yes, religious liberty. Now, I want to play a clip for you very quickly to set all of this up, and I want to thank the good people on Capitol Hill. You all did a wonderful job today watching the president do something for you that we've been waiting 40, 50 years for you to do for us, and that is to get rid of the, you think, where was that? Okay. It was to get rid of, did I get rid of that? I think I lost it. Okay, no, I didn't. I did lose it. Let me play this for you real quick.
Hi, Tony. Good to be with you at I Pledge Sunday. Let me tell you where we are in our nation right now. It's very simple. If I would have said 10 years ago marriage is between a man and a woman, you say, well, of course it is. Say that today, Pastor, you're being too political. If I would have said 30 years ago that the practice of homosexuality is not acceptable before God, that is a sin, people said, well, of course it is. Say that today. Oh, Pastor, you're being too political. If I would have said 40 years ago that abortion is wrong, that tearing up a baby in the womb is a bad thing, people would have said, well, of course it is. Say that today, and people would say, oh, Pastor, you're being too political. What we used to call biblical and moral issues is now political. And so pastors aren't supposed to speak out on that anymore. What has happened is we have allowed a moral equivalency to develop between right and left. It's not right versus left. It's right versus wrong. Let me ask you this. Where's the moral compass in America? It should be the pulpit. It should be the pastors. In other words, the pulpit has been largely quiet on this. The reason we have the problem we have in Washington, D.C. is not merely because of the wayward nature of our Congress. It's because the pulpits of America are not instructing them how they should think with the Word of God. Nor are the pulpits in America adequately instructing people on how the Bible applies to national life to the voting electorate that goes out and selects the 539. Let me ask you a question. How did we get in the mess we're in? I want to talk to you about one day that changed America, July the 2nd, 1954. And what we're dealing with these days, whether it be the issue of abortion or redefinition of marriage or drowning in debt, all these things stem from what happened July the 2nd, 1954. Lyndon Baines Johnson, he was then a senator, was returning from Texas. He'd been in a tough election. He was angry at two prominent businessmen in Texas. They opposed him through secular, not-for-profit corporations. So when Lyndon Baines Johnson got back to Washington, D.C., the IRS was in the process of overhauling the tax code. A bill was going through the Senate, and he stepped up and submitted what is now called the Johnson Amendment. The result was a speech restriction on any 501c3. The chief legislative aide of Lyndon Baines Johnson said, we did not have churches in mind, had no idea it would impact them like this. From that point on, it became effectively illegal for a pastor to speak out in certain ways on the issue of elections. And pulpits went largely silent on biblical application to national issues. For 58 years, there's been attempts to challenge the Johnson Amendment, but it hasn't happened. So consequently, the Alliance Defense Fund, now called the Alliance Defending Freedom, all 2,200 allied attorneys are standing behind us as pastors if we will intentionally defy that Johnson Amendment and speak out politically on issues from the pulpit. No government intrusion in the pulpit based on the First Amendment. 33 pastors started that back in 2008, recorded their sermons, and mailed them in the IRS. And each year there's been more and more. Over 500 pastors participated last year. This year, join with 1,000 pastors across America by going to pulpitfreedom.org and sign up now. We will not see the spiritual awakening we all long for until the pulpit is unfettered and unmuzzled. Join.
Unfettered and unmuzzled. I love the way all the conservative movement moved towards Ann Coulter. Pretty sexy Ann Coulter. Oh, she's sweetheart, little darling, and I would love to have her on my program and talk with her. Because I really agree with her on a lot of things, and I love her veracity. But when she was going to speak at Berkeley, all of conservative America was irate that Berkeley said no. And there were protests and people getting lawyers and things of that nature. But one thing has happened. Yeah, I know. Well, whatever sells her latest book. Yeah. One thing that has truly happened over this time period since 1954, we're talking about 63 years. If you were born in 1954, you're 63 years old. You did not know or never knew what it was like for a pastor to stand up and preach holy hell against a president as they preached against Thomas Jefferson running in 1800. You did not know what it was like for a preacher to stand up in the pulpit and demand the real men in the church, not the ones wearing the orange suit, the pink suit, and singy. No, not that guy. Talk about the real men in the church, following them as they take off their robes with their uniform beneath and going out to fight the Revolutionary War. You see, you all have not experienced real powerful preaching in America since 1954. I'm talking about courageous, hot fire. I'm not talking about someone spitting at you. I'm talking about on fire, on point, talking about the morale and the decision-making processes that one must follow in order to submit to the will of God. I'm talking about that. You have not heard it. That a man spends 60 minutes telling you that God wants you to be prosperous, and if you put $5, $100 down here right in front of me, God's going to bless you back. You all have been weakened as a nation because there is no power coming from the pulpits of America. They have a form of godliness but deny the power thereof. Why do they deny it? Because the dollars flow from sowers to their robes. They are stained and blemished by their secular embrace. They hold on to the Bible with their left hand and embrace Satan with the right. Ladies and gentlemen, the history of the Johnson Amendment was the destruction of America as a religious and free nation. You can go back to our founding fathers and they will tell you that this republic was built not for Islamists, not for the LGBTQ community, not for the special interest lobbyists on K Street, not for any of those. This nation was built for religious and moral people, built on the Judaic Christian framework of the Holy Bible. And unfortunately, on July 2nd, 1954, one man decided, without a shadow of a doubt, that he was going to destroy those who came against him. And what he really did was destroy the fabric of America.
For almost the first 200 years of American history, pastors spoke freely and boldly from their pulpits about the issues of the day. Pastors preached election sermons, giving instruction to newly elected officials on what Scripture said about the issues confronting government. Pastors also frequently supported or opposed candidates from their pulpits, going as far back as the presidential election of 1800 and continuing through successive elections. But all that changed in 1954 with the passage of the Johnson Amendment, which effectively overturned almost 200 years of church history in America. To understand the history of the Johnson Amendment, you need to know the circumstances behind the 1954 U.S. senatorial race. In 1954, Lyndon B. Johnson, a powerful Texas politician, was running for re-election to the U.S. Senate. Johnson's opponent was Dudley Dougherty, a 30-year-old first-term state senator from Beeville, Texas. Dougherty was not going to present much of a problem for Johnson, and Johnson felt that he would easily win re-election. That is, until two very powerful men impacted the race through the nonprofit organizations they had created. One man was H.L. Hunt, a Texas oil man, and the other was Frank Gannett, the publishing mogul. Hunt created a nonprofit organization called Facts Forum in 1951. Gannett created a nonprofit organization called the Committee for Constitutional Government in 1935. Both of these organizations were anti-communist, and both were supporting Dougherty in his race against Johnson. Hunt and Gannett believed that Johnson was soft on communism and did not want to see him reelected to the Senate. These two nonprofit organizations passed out thousands of pieces of literature in opposition to Johnson's campaign. Now, when Johnson saw that his chances for reelection were in danger, he tried to find ways of silencing them. He inquired with the Texas Election Commission and even with the IRS whether these groups were violating any law. Johnson was told that these groups were not breaking any laws. In the midst of the campaign, he finally hit on an idea to muzzle these organizations who were opposing his chances for re-election. He showed up on the floor of the Senate on July 2, 1954, and offered an amendment to a pending tax overhaul bill. This was a massive bill to modernize the tax code. The legislative history on that day shows that Johnson offered his amendment and declared that the sponsor of the tax bill had agreed to it. The amendment passed by a unanimous voice vote. The bill was passed, and President Eisenhower signed it into law on August 16, 1954. There were no committee hearings on the bill, no legislative analysis, and no attempt to understand the effect this bill might have on the constitutional right of churches and pastors. Johnson's chief aide at the time, a man named George Reedy, was interviewed many years after the fact and stated that Johnson never had churches in mind when he proposed this amendment. One scholar who studied this extensively concluded that the Johnson Amendment is not rooted in constitutional provisions for separation of church and state. Johnson was not trying to address any constitutional issue related to separation of church and state, and he did not offer the amendment because of anything that churches had done. Churches were not banned from endorsing candidates because they are religious organizations. They were banned because they have the same tax-exempt status as Facts Forum and the Committee for Constitutional Government, the right-wing organizations that Johnson was really after. Never let anyone tell you that the Johnson Amendment is intended to protect the so-called separation of church and state. Nothing could be further from the truth. This law was a revenge-motivated law passed by a powerful senator who knew how to use the political process to silence his opponents.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we return, censorship in America and how it's killing us day by day. You're listening to New Day Black and Red live from the nation's capital. Love you, Professor. We look forward to having you back next week.
The best late night conservative talk show in America, TECS Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than TECS Sean and TECS Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late night conservative talk, TECS Radio. The best late night conservative talk show in America. In America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Communist bigotry in China gets a pastor arrested. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. Just like their communist-oriented comrades in places like Berkeley University in California, Chinese government officials are not very fond of Jesus Christ, free speech, or general personal liberties. In recent months, China's communist regime has been cracking down even more than usual on those believing in Christ. Just recently, Pastor Zhu Zhuangzhang was arrested after leading a group of Christians in singing the Christmas classic, Yes, Jesus Loves Me. Officials stated that the song was an illegal religious activity. So often we in the United States take our religious liberty and freedoms for granted. Unfortunately, as more and more generations of American students are indoctrinated against our constitutionally limited republic form of government, we the people face a greater chance of losing our own liberties. Christians are perhaps the most persecuted group of people on earth. Even here in America, The mere mention of Jesus Christ can get you suspended from school or even ostracized at the workplace. But even in the throes of global bigotry against Jesus, the worst thing Christians can do is cower in a corner and accept being the whipping post of the world. Be not ashamed of Christ, and he shall not be ashamed of you. I'm Ron Edwards.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back to the final moments of the exceptional, well, forgive me, New Day Black and Red. It's exceptional that it is, in spite of the missing Dr. Michael Jones. We love him dearly. We pray for his strength. Hope that he comes back powerful next week, or at least powerfully, if I want to get my grammar together. Today, there was an executive order signed by the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. It was presidential executive order promoting free speech and religious liberty. And he writes, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, in order to guide the executive branch in formulating and implementing policies with implications for the religious liberty of persons and organizations in America, and to further compliance with the Constitution and with applicable statutes and presidential directives, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, policy. It shall be the policy of the executive branch to vigorously enforce federal laws, robust protections for religious freedom. The founders envisioned a nation in which religious voices and views were integral to a vibrant public square, and in which religious people and institutions were free to practice their faith without fear of discrimination or retaliation by the federal government. For that reason, the United States Constitution enshrines and protects the fundamental right to religious liberty as Americans' first freedom. Federal law protects the freedom of Americans and their organizations to exercise religion and participate fully in civic life without undue interference by the federal government. I put this in the chat room for your review and for your pleasure. But in the executive order, it has been made clear by the President of the United States, and this goes all the way down to the Attorney General, that public speech from the pulpit should not be infringed upon. In Section 2, he goes on to say, in particular, the Secretary of Treasury shall ensure, to the extent permitted by law, that the Department of the Treasury does not take any adverse action against any individual, house of worship, or other religious organization on the basis that such individual or organization speaks or has spoken about moral or political issues from a religious perspective, where speech of similar character has, consistent with law, not ordinarily been treated as participation or intervention in a political campaign on behalf of a candidate for public office by the Department of Treasury. So here's the problem that we still have. It is called participation or intervention in a political campaign. I know you all might be thinking, Ken is so anti-Trump. He just hates Trump. He's a hater. No, I'm just making some things very plain to you so that you can understand. And I want to go back very quickly to a clip. And I want to play this for you. Hope that you get this.
Campaign. Now, when Johnson saw that his chances for re-election were in danger, he tried to find ways of silencing them. He inquired.
Campaign silence. Who was he trying to silence? Well, he wasn't trying to silence the church, according to his executive assistant. However, in reality, he did. You see, between the founding of our country, I'm telling you, the founding, not even the Constitution or the Articles of Incorporation, Articles of Confederation, forgive me. Even before that, the founding of our nation, Christ had been at the center of it. Churches had freedoms. And Dave Chilner is right, Dave Milner. Plus, it's just an executive order, doesn't reverse the Johnson Amendment, and you get to my point exactly. Our point is this. It is for a campaign that the bill was put there as an amendment. Can I read that bill to you? Have you ever had the bill read to you? Or at least the reasoning for the bill? And I came upon this because a lot of people think that I don't do research for my program. I just make it up as I go along, fake the funk. I tried not to. I try not to do that. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Please tweet that out, Facebook that out to people so they can see it for themselves. What Johnson says here, the presiding officer, the senator from Texas, Mr. Johnson, has been recognized. Mr. Johnson of Texas, Mr. President, I have an amendment at the desk which I should like to have stated. The presiding officer, the secretary will state the amendment. The chief clerk, on page 117 of the House bill, in section 501c3, it is proposed to strike out individuals and insert individual, and strike out influence legislation and insert influence legislation, and which does not participate in or intervene in, including the publishing or distribution of statements, any political campaign on behalf of any candidate for public office. Mr. Johnson of Texas says, Mr. President, this amendment seeks to extend the provisions of Section 501 of the House bill, denying tax exempt status to not only those people who influences legislation, but also to those who intervene in any political campaign on behalf of any candidate for any public office. I have discussed this matter with the chairman of the committee, the minority ranking member of the committee, and several other members of the committee, and I understand that the amendment is acceptable to them. I hope the chairman will take it to conference and that it will be included in the final bill which Congress passes. Mr. Milligan, Mr. President, I am willing to take the amendment to conference. I understand from the minority leader that the distinguished senator from Georgia, Mr. George, feels the same way about it. The presiding officer, the question is on agreeing to the amendment of the senator from Texas. The amendment was agreed to. Mr. Milligan, Mr. President, Mr. Douglas, Mr. President, I shall be very glad to yield to the senator from Colorado if he wishes. Just like that. Just like that. Snap your finger real quick. Just like that. Over 200 years of freedom and liberty for men of the cloth was taken from them. If they can do that, just like that, why can they not repeal and replace Obamacare? Why can they not just repeal it? Because apparently on the floor of the U.S. Senate, this man puts in an amendment that was never considered by the conference, never considered by the whole committee. He just went up, spoke, bam, put it in there and said, there it is. Whoop, there it is. Whoop, there it is. Bet you I won't have no problems winning in Texas ever again. Bam, and he didn't. But guess what? After that, the Democrats reigned with significant power from FDR all the way through. Do you understand? By silencing the church, they could silence God. And if I can silence God, whom is more powerful than me? Ladies and gentlemen, I know that there are lots of people who will come to you and say that Ken is off his rocker, and that's why he's a peon in chief, and that he needs to actually sit at the feet of the great professor, Dr. Michael Jones, and make certain that this never happens again, where he's free to talk this way. But I wanted to let you know something, that the Johnson Amendment only took all of about 3 minutes, and it took away the First Amendment right of every American. It took 2 years for Obama to put together Obamacare to take away all of your Bill of Rights. And you have a congressional body composed of the Republican body, and they tell you, they come to you and they tell you, Ken, we had to compromise because the Democrats are so strong. And then you get mad with me because I come on the air and I say, bull. Ladies and gentlemen, the Johnson Amendment, I want to thank the President of the United States for him taking the lead on a National Day of Prayer in terms of encouraging the Johnson Amendment, but the executive order doesn't do what Congress has to do. You see, ladies and gentlemen, as long as the church is silenced, you will be silenced. I know you don't get that. I know you can't even understand. I know you can't conceive it because you're able to freely talk wherever you go except for Berkeley or Portland or New York. But how is it that the one place in the world where we need to hear a voice, we have allowed individuals to come in and make us voiceless? I want you to understand something as I come to a close here. And I got so much material, but I'm not going to be able to get to all of it tonight. There's some key reasons why we need to get rid of it. Number one, the amendment violates the Establishment Clause by requiring the government to excessively and pervasively monitor the speech of churches to ensure they are not transgressing the restriction in the amendment. Now, I've been in black churches. You can say whatever you want, as long as it's pro-Obama. But the minute you say something that's anti-Obama, trust me, somebody's picking up the phone and they're calling the IRS. You won't be preaching here no more. It also invades against free speech. The amendment violates the free speech clause because it requires the government to discriminate against speech based solely on the content of the speech. The Supreme Court has invalidated this type of speech discrimination for decades. The amendment violates the free speech clause by conditioning the receipt of a tax exemption on refraining from certain speech. Now, I want to tell you something. Scripturally, as well as constitutionally, you don't need a 501c3 to be a church. Yet since 1954, 3 generations of Americans have been told otherwise. Do you know that most people who have been born in America today have never known a free church? And finally, the amendment violates the free exercise clause because it substantially burdens a church's exercise of religion. The government does not have a compelling reason to burden religion in this way. Jesus says, choose life. And yet I can't tell anyone from the pulpit to choose life. In Canada right now, they're working on making an Islamophobic free society. The only way you can do that is by silencing the church. Well, let me give you a place where the church has been silenced. Let's try Saudi Arabia. Let's try Syria. Let's talk Egypt. Ladies and gentlemen, where I can silence you, I can silence your God. And greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And if you are silent, God will never be in the world. If you don't receive anything that I've said tonight, I hope that you get this. God bless America. Now it's time for America to bless God. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight to New Day Black and Red. We'll be back on Monday night with the Exceptional Conservative Show. Colonel Jim Wyatt will be with us, and we'll be talking about Nanny Helen Burroughs. Good night. God bless, and I love you dearly. Coming up, DC.